Hi guys, welcome to the Darkness channel and don't forget to like and subscribe. You are what you eat. When a young and homeless black gets picked up by a kind passerby woman, she invites him to stay at her house until he gets back on his feet. It seems like he hit the jackpot and his luck was finally turning around until he started to notice questionable things and hear a strange noise in the middle of the night. Did he really get saved from living on the streets, or was he now in a danger? I sat on the railroad as the rain came pouring down on me. I slid myself down and hoped it would just go away. I wish I had a home to go to. Well, I do. But I ran away from there. I never wanted to go back. I'd much rather to be here alone on the street than to go home with my abusive brothers. My parents died in a car crash about a year ago, leaving me alone with my two older brothers. I was the youngest boy in the house. I'm 17 and my brothers are well into their 20s. They don't even care about me. If they did, they wouldn't be beating me up all the time and saying horrible shit to me. I'm better off without them. I was blinded by bright car light flashing right on me. I squinted my eyes and tried to block the light from my eyes. It looked like the car was just turning the corner I'm at. But it came to a stop. I heard a car door and heels clicking on the street. I saw a silhouette of a woman in front of the car lights and then she eagerly walked over me. It was still dark and hard to see her, but she walked right up to me, crossing her arms and shivering as she didn't have a coat on. Are you okay? What are you doing out here all alone without a coat? She asked, almost in a shout voice. All you could hear was the rain pouring on the cement, trees swaying in the rough wind, and the sound of cars and traffic in the distance. I'm fine, I replied. Only I wasn't. I was freezing and definitely did not want to go home. It was too far anyway. Where's your house? Do you need a ride home? She asked. I don't have a home, I replied, and I mean it. My house is not my home anymore. I will never return. I'm done. It was silent for about a minute. All you heard was the rain and cars passing by, splashing waters on us both. The woman shivered and my clothes were completely soaked through. There was no way I could feel warm right now. Why don't I take you to my place? At least for a while? I just feel bad for you, out here by yourself. And you can eat dinner with us, she said, and I think she smiled too. Us? I assumed maybe it was her boyfriend or husband or whatever. I didn't think too much of it. I sighed, getting up and walking over to the passenger side of the car, while the girl took the driver's seat. The car light lit up inside, and I could see her clearly. She had bleached blonde hair and a warm smile. The car was pretty warm too, and it smelled like vanilla and sugar. The radio was on, playing some adult song that I think I've heard before. It was turned down low, so I couldn't really make out the words. "Thanks again," I replied, buckling the seat belt. She nodded and leaped, "You're welcome." "Oh wow, I'm so bad at meeting people. I'm Colin," she said. "I'm Blake," I said, and ran my fingers through my drenched brown hair. "When we get to my house, just make yourself at home. My 3 sisters are there, so just introduce yourself." She smiled before beginning to drive. It was silent, and she turned up the music a little more. I stared out the window at the rain falling hard on the ground, creating deep puddles. It was a blessing that Colin happened to pick me up before the rain got harder. "You look very young. Why are you homeless? I mean, if you don't mind me asking." Colin asked, and I cleared my throat, searching for words. "I ran away," I replied, short and sweet. "Well, I don't know about the sweet part." "Oh," she replied, and that was all she said. I assuming she doesn't want to keep bothering me and pushing to know everything. I was glad she didn't keep asking. I don't want to think about my family and home life. "I'm 24, by the way. How old are you?" she asked. We started to drive on a section of path that enters a neighborhood full of big houses on the street. 17. "Oh, you're still a kid," she laughed. I don't understand what was so funny about that, but I kept silent. Something was off about her vibe. I couldn't tell what it was. I ignored it. Then we pulled into a driveway that belongs to a large white-colored house. It was big, maybe like 2 or 3 floors. It was definitely bigger than my old home. She parked the car and shut it off. I was thankful that I wasn't stuck in that car with her any longer. The small talk we had was just awkward. And I bet I smelled bad from not showering. We both stepped out of the car, and I just stood there by the passenger side awkwardly. Colin popped the trunk and then retrieved some heavy-looking black duffel bag, dropping it to the ground and closing the trunk. "You can walk in," she said. I looked up at the sky, and it was dark. The rain stopped. I have no idea what time it is. I started to walk towards the front door, and I heard some voices. They all turned their heads to me. I usually don't compliment many girls, but I have to admit they were stunning. One of them had short blonde hair and a bright smile. Another had dark brown hair and freckles covering her cheeks. and one more girl entered the room, her eyes widening as she saw me and Colleen walk in. She had dark red hair and a perfect face. Colleen dropped the duffel bag to the floor and sighed heavily. "Blake, these are my sisters." She proceeded to introduce me to the beautiful girls. I learned that the short blonde-haired one was Helen. The brown-haired and freckle-faced was Nathan, and the redhead was Anne. "So, is this your boyfriend?" Nadine asked and turned herself around to focus her attention on us. "What? No, I just met him, and he has nowhere to go, so I decided to let him stay for a warm meal," Colleen said. But that Anne girl wasn't having it. "Colleen, can I speak to you for a minute? Alone?" She crossed her arms. "Of course, just help me with this." They both carried the heavy bag and I offered to help them, but they quickly denied. I think they could tell that I was wondering what's in the bag, so they answered my thoughts. Colleen's gym bag, heavy as shit, and was quick to respond. Colleen was fit, and I bet she could knock me out with one punch. Her toned arms said it all. "So, why don't you have anywhere to go?" Helen asked, and I quietly took a seat on the white recliner across from Coach. "I ran away from home. It's a long story. I don't want to get too into it." I gave a small smile. "That's too bad. How old are you?" she asked. I hadn't realized an hour had passed by, and I was just sitting here telling stories and talking with Helen and Nadine. They were really nice. I heard some of their stories too. Colleen and Anne finally returned to the living room, and I almost questioned their disappearance, but I didn't. It's none of my business. Anne still looked pissed off, but not as much as before. She really was pretty. She had the perfect face and didn't look like she was wearing a lot of makeup. She had dark red hair that looked curled a bit. She wore a white blouse and a black pencil shirt. I don't know women's fashion. "Soup should be acceptable for dinner, right?" Anne cleared her throat and asked. Everyone was looking at me, and I felt put on the spot. But I nodded, "Yeah." "Good, I'll start making it." Anne turned on her heels and walked over through the dining room and entered what I'm assuming is the kitchen. "She is the best cook in the house," Helen explained and looked over at the TV. Colleen and Nadine looked at each other for a mere 10 seconds before Colleen spoke up. "Why don't you take a shower? I'll get you some clothes." She smiled and walked upstairs. "Clothes? I don't think there's any other guy in this house but me." I cringed at the thought of having to wear some girly pants and shirt. Colleen returned downstairs, and her lips curled to a smile. She had a pile of clothes neatly folded in her arms and a dark red towel, and handed them to me. They're clean, just out of the dryer. The shower's upstairs, in the first door to the left. She sat down next to Nathan and Helen. Thanks, I said. I walked upstairs and entered the bathroom. I set the pile of clothes on the edge of the sink and peeled the damp clothes off my body, leaving them in a messy pile on the white tiled floor. After about 20 minutes of trying to figure out how to turn the shower on and get it at the right temp, I was relaxing under the hot water. It felt nice. I haven't had a shower or at least a warm one in a while. I looked over at the body wash and shampoo, coconut scent stuff. I was grateful that it was too feminine. After I was done washing my body and was satisfied with the warm water making me feel good and washing off the rest of my worries for the night, I turned off the water and dried myself off. I looked at the clothes she gave me. I was surprised. They were actually men's clothes. I had questioned, but I didn't know if I should ask them. I put on the slightly large black shirt and dark red sweatpants. That seems to be my size. I also put the white socks on and gathered my dirty clothes outside. I walked down the stairs. Here, I'll take those. Nadine smiled and took the dirty clothes out of my hand and threw them in a hamper nearby. Colleen smiled as I stood near the couches. What? I nervously laughed. Was my shirt inside out? You sure look good in those clothes. Colleen's lip curled into a smile. Anne walked into the living room and looked at me, freezing, and then looked at Colleen. Colleen, really? She asked, and I was confused. What? Doesn't he look great? Colleen said, and smiled once more. Helen and Nadine were concentrating on the TV screen, out of the conversation completely. Oh yeah, you must be wondering where your clothes are from. There. Colleen was interrupted mid-sentence. One of my ex-boyfriends. He left some of his clothes here. I hope you don't mind that you're wearing them. And surprised me by smiling nervously. She then gave a look to Colleen, and she shrugged it off. After being completely confused, I sat down at the recliner across from the couch and turned on her heels and sighed, walking back to the kitchen. Dinner's ready. Thanks for staying till the end. Please subscribe to more stories.